Welcome to the Business Spotlight podcast. My name is Kay Cote, and I'm your host for today's episode. And today on the show, I have Kesten Broughton, founder of PCI Oasis, as my guest. We're going to be learning about him and his business, his journey to business ownership, best practices, and challenges that he's faced to give you that inside look to what it's like to build and operate a business. Welcome, Kesten. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks, Kate. Nice to be here.
Yes, well, I'm very excited to dive in to all things business. So, I would love to learn and share with my audience a bit about you and your business. So, kind of take us back a little bit and share about yourself.
Sure. So I'm originally from Canada. I went to UBC in Vancouver there, and have a degree in math and physics. So I started off, doing research at a place called Nortel Networks. I was investigating slime at the time, he's shining lasers on them, and getting to make holograms and things like that out of it. Um, and then I ended up doing some video game programming for a little while. And then I took a break for about 7 years. I went farming and traveling a little bit, and ended up in Austin with a food trailer. That was my first business. So I I came to Austin with a food trailer and sold for about a year and a half, and then went back into tech and eventually found my way to Crunchyroll, which is a current employer. And then I started a business about a year ago.
Oh my gosh, congratulations. And I like that you've done so many different things and that your path has led here. That's incredible. So you said it's been about a year now you started the business. And so before we get into the business itself, because I really want to deep dive into your story, tell me a little bit about your current role. Like what does that look like in your day-to-day in what you're doing?
Sure. Well, I kind of had two roles, right? Because as I mentioned, I am a sort of like side gig founder. So this might be interesting for kind of like that niche of people out there who aren't doing their startup full time. So my day-to-day work at Crunchyroll, I'm a security engineer there. And, anime, Crunchyroll is like anime streaming service. And so anime is one of the hottest things in the world that people want to, pirate and get for free and resell. There's a lot of different organized crime units that do all those sorts of things. And so my job there is to protect the company and the customers and make sure that everything is working right as it should be from a security perspective. So it's a small security team. So my skills and roles span a lot of different things. But one of the things that we do there is an annual PCI audit, which is the payment card industry. Basically, if you think of any time you go onto any website and enter your credit card, that little frame where you're typing in the digits of your credit card, that is like the danger point of somebody being able to steal those digits, right? So lots of people would love to have your credit card numbers and the little CVV and the expiration code. And so a lot of what we do for that particular aspect is making sure that the page is very secure and that nobody can get in there and like steal those digits as you're typing them in.
Oh my gosh, like I've heard of this before, like that kind of theft. So I'm
Yeah.
glad that you're out there like helping out. So that's your day job, is that correct?
So the day job is at Crunchyroll, and that's protecting streaming, many, many different aspects to that, like preventing denial of service attacks and preventing the content that is like so, created by content providers from around the world. And so we have to make sure that that is not leaked, put in a bucket somewhere online and available to everyone. So there's lots of different aspects to my Crunchyroll job. That one little piece, that PCI thing, there were two new rules put in place last year that were really like inside the browser, like very much AppSec, which is an area that I hadn't had a lot of experience in before. And so that's where I took the opportunity to do a like build versus buy analysis. And in the end, our company decided to go with the buy. But I had this idea and spoke to my managers, and there wasn't really an opportunity to pursue it within the company. But I could take that idea and, like, on my own computer in my own time, sort of start with the seed of the idea and go about solving it from the ground up.
Oh, incredible. Okay, so now I want to kind of dive into where, like, because if you're working, it's a full-time job and then this is the side hustle. How much of your time currently let's take the hustle, like the hours that you're putting in that. How much
Right.
of your time is currently spent working in the business versus on the business?
Right. Great question. And it's very little on the business. And so that's why we're still like after years, we're still very early stage. So the product is fairly well developed now. But I'm still working in the business a fair bit. And it's 20 hours a week normally. But I kind of chose this to be like a very, very small, kind of super small niche. There's like 100+ controls in the PCI compliance portfolio. And I chose just these two new ones. And I wanted to have a very small scope so that I didn't have to sacrifice, like, I mean, I've got a full-time job and I've got a full-time business on top of that. I needed something small enough so that I could keep the scope small, so that I could basically just have a bit of life balance, work-life balance still. I've got a 2-year-old, and when push comes to shove, she gets my hours, not my side gig. And so that's the kind of balance that I'm playing with. About 20 hours a week. If I get up at 5 a.m. and work till 7, then my baby wakes up and I can go and take care of her until 9 when my job starts, and then work till 5. And then on the weekends I have like a few extra hours, so maybe 4 or 5 hours on the weekends where I can put into the job. But as you noted, most of it is sort of like still working in the business, not on the business. I'm trying to take those steps, but it's something that I knew at the outset. Like, my weakness is going to be in the sales and the go to market and that part of the business. And so, been working on that quite a lot, but still haven't found that traction, that thing that I need to make it really
Mhm.
click.
Okay, and you mentioned you have another business as well?
No, it's just the Crunchyroll is my day job, and then the side business, PCI
Okay,
Oasis.
I wasn't sure if you said another one. I was like,
I can't do
okay.
three.
Oh, okay, awesome, awesome. So, okay, I've got a fun question for you. If I gave you back 10 hours in your day, like, and you could put them wherever you'd like,
Mm.
where would you put them? Would you prefer like on the business, in your personal life, or is there kind of like a little bit of both?
Feel like there's pretty good balance right now. I think there would be a few things that I've lost since becoming a dad that I would really like to get back to, like yoga, long bike rides. I can still do because my baby loves to sit in the back, and we go for long rides. But a little bit of social stuff, so like two-stepping, I used to do a fair bit in the Austin area, and I loved it. And I don't really have a crew to go and two-step with anymore. So, like if I had like a Make-A-Wish genie type scenario, it would be like maybe I could find a way to those, like that business aspect, those go-to-market, look, those primary customers that I need to find. If there's a way to find them in a social setting so that it doesn't like feel like extra meetings in my day, but like we could go rock climbing, or we could go, on a long bike ride. That would be the ideal way for me to sort of like combine those two needs of a little bit more personal time or fun time, and like making the business go in the right direction.
Oh yeah, that's like really the nail on the head for a lot of businesses. So I'm glad you said something about that. Yeah, they'll
Mhm.
have to like come up with some really cool networking opportunities for like software engineers and or something. That would be there's probably something in Austin, to be honest.
Austin has a founders meetup actually, and I went there and I did find a co-founder through that. Unfortunately, like my strength is tech, and I found a sales guy who wanted to get out of sales and into tech, and we started things together, but he eventually had to move on because we didn't have like a flowing income, and he turned 26 and needed like health insurance, so found a regular job. So. So that was like initially it was a near miss, right? So the Austin community has like it's amazing for founders, and I almost found what I needed, but still, haven't had that click with someone who has the GTM and lots of experience and network and things like that to say, hey, this is a great product. I know the people, that sort of thing.
Yes, definitely. Now I want to ask you another question that's kind of related to this is when was the last time you took a real vacation and what happened?
I took a real vacation not too long ago. Went with my family to meet my brother's family in St. Martin, and it was great. And I did completely unplug for several days, and then did a few kind of half day work sort of things. What happened? Um, got a lot of walking on the beach in, and the wind was up and crazy. So that was kind of fun, like wind everywhere. And my daughter learned the word wind that week. So
That's really sweet. Well, I'm glad to hear that you're carving out some time for yourself and your family, that personal time that a lot of business owners we just kind of forget to that exists. So I'm so glad that you had that. And like kind of looking at you know, your company structure now, are you solopreneuring currently or do you have other investors? Do you have any employees right now?
yeah, so solopreneuring, but I did manage to get an accelerator on with an accelerator fund. So at about the 6 month mark, and so that was great. One of the really nice things that that brought was all the like free credits and things like that. So basically, the business can run for years now on free cloud credits and things like that. I've got like almost no operating costs. I received like $50,000 with a 15K of that going to the kind of training portion of the accelerator program. So with 35K, I was able to pay the original founder because he was like, fresh out of college and he had financial needs that I didn't. So paid him out of the initial pool of money. And then when he had to move on, I had developed about 5 interns. So I started an internship program just because I love teaching. I taught in Ghana, West Africa for a couple of years, and my parents were both teachers. So it kind of like is one of the things that makes me tick. And so I just put out a sort of like a job posting for a internship program that was unpaid, and I got a lot of really good responses. And 5 people ended up coming on a regular basis and coming back. And eventually gave them credentials. I started them on a side project which is labs.pcioasis.com. And that was meant to like train young AppSec people on like how to do the attacks, how to detect the attacks, how to prevent the attacks. And so there were a lot of, early stage, early career. Maybe they had one job or maybe not that first job yet. But we started with 5. And then I was eventually able to, when Josh left, I was able to take 2 of those interns and give them a paid role. And so right now the company is me plus 2 paid staff, I guess now. One of them is in Gaza and one of them is in India. And we meet once a week and they're doing really great. And they're starting to post like, what I learned this week on their LinkedIn and building their own personal brand. So I like to see that for my employees as they're kind of like growing in the right path.
Oh, that's incredible. Congratulations. The interns are the best. I love working with interns. So
It's
that's
really
so
great.
they're fabulous. They're so sharp.
Yeah.
So I kind of like switching gears a little bit. So, every business owner that I talk to is like growing through something in their business. And so it could be a season, a new challenge, just something that's fresh, a new level. So what is something you're going through right now that is kind of like demanding most of your time?
Mm. So the big obstacle that we face is inbound, like getting our inbound channel flowing. And so it was right from the beginning. That was kind of my go-to-market strategy was that I had just spent several weeks, doing PCI 6.4.3, like how do I solve this problem, right? And so I know there's like thousands of engineers out there doing the same sort of thing. They're going to be looking for a pretty niche, phrase there. And so I was just assuming that I would be able to go to Google Ads and pay for my, page to come up near the top and that I would have like a steady flow in of interested people at least, right? And then get to that selling part after that. And it turned out that Google doesn't really work well for very narrow, very focused search things. So imagine if you like were selling a sneaker that was like pink and had laces at the back and open toed or something like that, right? Like a very, very specific search term.
Mhm.
Google, after you get below about 100, per month, their stats don't work, their pages don't work. I've been on the call with 5 different Google Ads reps now, and we keep going back and forth, and they're saying, yeah, this should be working, it's not working. So that's basically been my big obstacle. My pivot is now I think I have to expand the business and do a couple of things. So one, I'm going to work a little bit more on that labs.pcioasis site and like really build on that educational aspect There's people called QSAs, so qualified, security assessors that go and look at your page and look at your evidence and say, yeah, you're doing good enough that you're not high risk to the credit card companies, of losing their information. So
Mm.
these new things are kind of like they were out of left field for me, and I've been in security for 15 years. So if you're, a QSA and you get kind of the idea of these e-skimming controls, but you haven't really experienced it, they could go to this labs.pcioasis.com site and like actually see the lab and then, learn about and understand it better. So hoping to focus on some of that, some sort of like blogging about how we do things and do things securely, and maybe like get a little bit more SEO and volume there until I can figure out the inbound ads and things like that.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool that you're thinking about expansion. And that leads perfectly into my next question, which is what is the thing that if someone like handed you a solution for, like for it tomorrow, what would change the most about how you're running the business right now?
Um, I think it would be the magic wand. I think for most founders is like finding their ideal customers, and getting like, probably most of our customers would have more than 200 employees, and they would have at least a lawyer or inside or outside counsel or something like that. And they would have a small security department at least. And finding the right person through LinkedIn to talk to pitch to, that's really hard. So the magic, the magic wand thing there would be like finding a way to get to those ideal people. And then once you have the conversations, I think that would change a lot, because then it would be like, what are your pain points? How can we solve maybe not just this problem, but like a larger problem? So yeah, so I think that's the main thing is like finding the route to those first like those first partners who are going to help you build your business.
Yeah, that's a big one. Like those pillars, those pillar people in your life for
Mm.
sure. So now how has like when you're looking at the like getting into your office on Monday morning or whenever you take that first day of your week working on the side hustle, what is the first thing that's top of mind for you right now?
It's usually about six or seven different things. And so, usually there's a little bit of tech stuff. So, I working with I basically handed most of that to the two engineers that I have working now. But there's still coordination and direction, right? So I'm like reviewing what they've done, looking at their tasks for the week, and making sure that things are kind of like ordered correctly, and also that they're on a learning path that works for them. It's kind of fun though, because we're doing a lot of stuff with AI, and so there's like I think for everybody's experiencing this, there's like this great creativity boost. There's the anxiety of like, what are the skills that are going to be like valuable to me in a year or two as an engineer, given that AI is getting so good at coding. So, like trying to guide them into a career path and not just like their week's worth of work, is something that I try and spend some time on. So that's one aspect. And then the sales part is always part of it, like trying to figure out how to get that engine flowing. Usually responding to some emails. There's a lot of people reaching out saying, "Hey, we can solve your inbound or outbound sales problems." And I, take a few of them, but I haven't found anyone that's got like a real solution that works for us. Again, that small volume, or the very niche nature of the people who we're trying to solve a problem for, and getting in contact with them, is a hard one to solve, I think.
Yeah, so like tell me about your ideal client. Like who is like your client archetype? Like if I were to check you out online and
Mhm.
how would I know I'd be a good fit for your business?
Right. So there's kind of three. There's one who's in my position, which is like a security engineer who has to present the evidence. So they're the ones who go out and collect all the evidence from their website, the front end, like the JavaScript and the HTML, and the back end, the cloud, and where all the security controls are. And then they go like, here, QSA person, here's all my evidence, to prove to you that everything is safe. So that's the security engineer. And then above them, there would be a GRC type person, governance, risk, and compliance. So somebody who's like dealing with compliance as their day-to-day job. They usually don't have that granular level of technical skills, but they understand the rules and how to work with, presenting the evidence and those sorts of things. And so the GRC type or a compliance type person would be another ideal customer. And then above that, there's a CISO who maybe at a small company, the CISO might be the one who's doing the security engineering, like at a very small founder company. In that case, it would probably be an e-commerce company who's maybe got some idea they want to sell to other, maybe it's like a SaaS company and they service e-commerce companies. In that case, they need to make sure that they're doing everything really securely. They might be like making the checkout flow way smoother or doing something, in those lines. And we could help them make sure that everything they do is secure and locked down, and their responsibilities aren't kind of aren't making it more difficult for their customers to tell a good security story, essentially. So any of those three would be a great ideal customer to sort of like partner with and really grow the business with.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Now, like, let's kind of fast forward. Where do you see your business going in the next 3 to 5 years?
Sure. Um, so one direction I see it going in is that checkout flow. So our solution, in order to figure this out, there's like three or four different kind of archetypical ways to solve this problem. Our particular solution is the lowest touch. Like you don't have to add our scripts to your web page. You don't have to put us in your WAF or make any changes. You just have to give us your URL, your website's name, and we then crawl the website. So it's like zero touch. You don't have to do any configuration, and then we give you the report. As we're crawling, if you give us the home page and I have to crawl and put things in your basket and like make my way to that checkout page where the credit cards digits are, we're finding there's a lot of problems. Like there's just a ton of friction in so many different sites. Like maybe they make you enter your postal code, but they don't accept 5 digits. They need the dash and the extra like four
Oh,
or
yeah.
5 digits. Like why? Like why on earth would you put that friction in front of your customers? And we're finding something like that on almost every single site that we crawl. So even though our solution is really just like that tiny little bit of security that we want to help people with their reporting, we've discovered a much bigger problem, which is like people's flows, even to this day, yeah, are like really bad. And that friction should be important to any business owner. So we're working on making our product, making a dual product, a security product and a flow product.
Oh, yeah, user experience is huge. That's a really great like addition. Okay, this is a fun one. If we had this conversation 5 years from now, and you were grinning ear to ear, what would you be telling me?
Hmm. Um, that that even though my wife was sure that it wasn't going to work out, like just hanging on that extra 4 or 5 months made it like, everything that I imagined it to be from the start, which is like a really great niche product that was, able to satisfy customers' needs, maybe makes more sense to be part of a bigger security portfolio. And so there's a lot of security companies out there that don't have this little problem solved. So probably finding like that right place to sell it to, or go the other direction, which is like make it a bigger, broader product, that like that whole flow thing. Either one of those, I think, would be a great sort of exit or 3 to 5 year plan for me. And so probably just like ear to ear would mean that I was able to do it without crashing my personal life, without like taking too much time from the things that are really important to me, and that just being patient and that stick with itness of like never giving up eventually pays off. And I was able to have that extra financial freedom, the extra creative freedom, and employ some people in some really interesting work.
Definitely. And like, what does that unlock for you personally when you get there? Like, what does that feel like for you?
Oh, I think even greater freedom to do exactly what I want. I mean, like nobody grows up thinking, "Oh, I really want to do PCI compliance tooling." This to me was like a really great niche product that after 15 years of experience in the industry, I can kind of spot and be like, "Oh, that would make a good product," or "That would be a good product." I kind of consider this more like my launch pad, maybe like training wheels to a bigger idea that has like a bit broader impact. So probably that would be using this as like a little bit of a springboard into something that is like, I've got a few ideas that are much, much bigger, and I definitely don't have time for it if I'm going to keep my, 9 to 5 job. So,
Definitely. Now, when you look at that kind of gap between now and that 5-year goal, what is the biggest obstacle that you see in your way?
I think so. The one that I identified is like not even being able to find a really great Google Ads technical like engineer who understands like the ad side, but also the code side and can bridge the gap and figure out what's going wrong. And so it's interesting because like at first I was like, okay, Google will be able to help me, and that wasn't the case. And then I went and found someone who is like in marketing, and they had a lot of good advice, but they still don't have the code capabilities to really like get down and figure out what's going wrong. And so then I went to look for businesses that are doing this, and I couldn't even find a business that actually solves this problem. So I think that's still like the biggest issue is like obviously we need traction, we need sales, we need like customers. Um, could solve it with outbound if I figured out a really good way to do outbound. But outbound is a lot of time, right? And it's like it's really difficult for someone to spend a lot of time, make 100 calls and only get one response when you've only got like 10 hours for that particular aspect of the business, right? So
Mhm.
that's it really is like figuring out the GTM, figuring out how we're gonna get this in front of people and find the right people to give it a try.
Definitely. Well, thank you for sharing that. And like when you kind of like when you imagine the version of the business that finally like works the way you want it to, what does that do for your life? Like what does your life look like outside of the business?
Hmm. Um, Probably it means I get to hire a lot of really great people to do all of those jobs that I'm kind of like straddling right now, and then can like reduce the amount of time that I am going to spend. Again, it's so niche. It doesn't have a huge expansion profile. Uh, and really just that pursuit then of what am I going to work on next? So I often find that in the past I've usually found that through my current job I find like this is a problem that we need to solve, and not just our company but hundreds of companies, thousands of companies need to solve this problem. So that's usually where the ideas come from is like, oh, what's going to be the next thing that I would build. So I think, either it's going to be build something on top of this product to make it much, much bigger, or sell it and use that financial freedom to really go and explore. And I think the thing that I would focus most on the next time is the other people that I would want to join forces with and come together and do something, So like um, the Anthropic team the other day, I saw an interesting video of them starting off, and it's like an odd structure. It's like 5 people left OpenAI and started this company, right? And so they all knew each other, and they're all kind of like co-founders. And I think that sort of situation where like a bunch of people and you can from the start, you don't have to wear 16 hats,
Yeah.
like you can wear just two because you got 5 other people with you and they can each wear 2 hats. I think that would be a really like an improved experience over trying to be a solo founder, a solopreneur. So that would probably be like the main thing that I would look at is having one successful company under my belt would make everything else so much easier, right? Like then you can really go out and expand and be your most creative self, I guess.
Definitely, definitely. Well, Kesten, this has been such a fun conversation. How can people connect with you and your company online?
So I'm on LinkedIn. There aren't too many Kestens out there and like no other Kesten Broughtons. So you can find me that way or www.pcioasis.com. There's a Calendly link on the About Us page. So you could always just set up some time if you're interested in chatting more. I think that's probably going to do it. Or you can run into me, on the hike and bike path in Austin along the
Oh my
valley.
gosh, I'm always on there. Well,
All
say hi.
right.
How you know? Now we know
We've
each other.
probably passed each other a number of times. I usually go on Saturday morning. I take my daughter like for the 30-minute bike ride, and then we go to the YMCA at Town Lake and have a swim and then come back and eat some Taco Deli tacos. And yeah, it's a great little day.
I am sure we've crossed paths more than once then. That
Mhm.
is so cool. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your story and for being a guest on the show today.
Thank you. Oh, and I just wanted to shout out, this is like the business spotlight is really great. As I was like preparing for this meeting, I went and watched some of them, and I'm going to put on my glasses now here because I wrote down one name that was really great. Ilo Mukoro from Credentials.
Yes.
Um, yeah, super cool business. I'm nerdy, like I like the math stuff, and so he's got this he's got this zero knowledge proof based company that does something that is like I just this week went through this of having to apply for an apartment and having to do proof of income. And the
Mm-hmm.
company that our apartment complex used had a terrible, like totally insecure way of doing it. They made me give them my company's password for like Okta for like that's the keys to the kingdom. They wanted me to give that to their personal website. That's not at all the way that you do it. And so like, yeah, I'm gonna hit him up after this and see what his company does because that's just those sorts of things scare the daylights out of me when a company that is supposed to be securing your information, your privacy, is doing the exact opposite. Like they just don't have the security skills and they built a product that's maybe good in some ways, but it's like gonna end badly because they haven't got the security there.
Oh wow. Yeah, definitely give him a call. I'm glad that well, thank you. I'm glad you enjoy the business spotlight and thanks for being on this one today.
Thank you so much, Kate. Really appreciate it.